All right, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is to take, some of the most tangled and complex source material you can imagine. We're talking legal files, private notes, you name it, and just distill it all down.
Right, to get to the essential insights, the things you really need to know.
And today, the file we're opening it's just one for the ages. It really defies belief.
It does. It starts with a lawyer trying to save a golden retriever.
A single dog in Passaic County about to be put down. And from there, it detonates. We're talking a massive multinational conspiracy.
Yeah, you've got organized crime, you have government corruption, you have billions with a B in stolen funds from the Afghanistan reconstruction effort.
And on top of all that, 5 people who apparently faked their own deaths.
It sounds completely like fiction, like something you'd grab at an airport bookstore.
Exactly.
But the details we're pulling from, they're all documented in this incredible case file. So our objective today is really surgical. We're going to extract the legal strategies, look at the connections between all these, seemingly separate criminal groups.
And trace it all back to that one golden retriever.
The dog, who was supposedly dead for 5 years, he's the key to everything.
So think of this as your express lane to understanding how saving one dog can, and in this case did, expose a massive federal crime ring. We're jumping right into the very beginning, the catalyst for it all.
A pretty grim day at the Passaic County Animal Shelter.
And to really get the scene, you have to understand the main character here, attorney Andy Carpenter.
Right. He is not your typical lawyer. He's filling in for his partner, Willie Miller, who's the co-founder of this dog rescue, the Tara Foundation.
Which saves, over 1,000 dogs a year?
Over 1,000, yeah. And Andy, he usually avoids shelters. He hates them. He hates having to confront the grim reality of it all.
And the reality he walks into on this day just immediately cranks up the pressure. He meets the shelter manager, Fred Brandenberger.
And Fred is having a terrible day. He's overseeing the euthanasia of dogs that haven't been adopted. It's a routine part of the job, but it's heartbreaking.
And Andy is just dreading being any part of a life or death decision.
So this is the environment, this immediate, visceral pressure is where the whole story begins. Fred takes Andy to the quarantine area.
Canine death row, basically.
Essentially. And there he meets the dog at the center of it all, a golden retriever named Yogi.
And Yogi is in quarantine because he bit his supposed owner, a man named Warren Shaheen.
It was a pretty bad bite, too, 11 stitches. And Shaheen is, he's furious. He wants the dog put down immediately.
Fred, the shelter manager, has a pretty good summary of the guy, right?
A very brief one. He just calls Shaheen an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear from the jump that the shelter staff thinks Yogi is the real victim here.
And this is the crucial part, the detail that gives Andy his opening. There's conflicting testimony.
Right. A young neighbor who lived nearby came forward. They said they'd seen Shaheen always kicking the dog.
So it wasn't just random aggression.
No, not at all. It immediately suggests that Yogi's bite was, self-defense, or at least retaliation for just constant abuse.
And that is the inflection point. That's what changes everything.
Yeah.
Andy's faced with this dog who's about to be destroyed and this really strong suggestion that he was just defending himself.
And as a dog lover himself, he makes this immediate, almost gut-level commitment.
Nothing bad is going to happen to this dog.
And that one moral decision, that's the thread that, when you pull on it, unravels this entire multi-billion-dollar conspiracy.
So the decision to fight for Yogi, it's not just a random act of kindness. It's really rooted in Andy Carpenter's whole philosophy of life.
It is. It's this idea he calls the enjoyment drive.
The enjoyment drive. Explain that.
Well, it's a fascinating way to look at work because it just completely flips the script on what motivates people.
Okay.
Andy's theory is that the drive for enjoyment is more powerful than any other. Most people, they work to make money, and then that money buys them enjoyment.
All right, the weekend, a vacation, whatever.
Exactly. But Andy's already wealthy. So for him, that equation is reversed. He only works if the work itself brings him enjoyment.
So he's not working for a paycheck?
Not at all. In his mind, working a boring job is just wasting, 10 hours a day on something trivial, like selling plumbing supplies or handling routine insurance cases.
Which means his legal career is defined completely by what he finds interesting, what he's passionate about.
Precisely. The file says he only takes cases that are personally important to him or exciting, or, and this is key, cases that ignited his competitive fire.
So, standard divorce case.
Total bore. Guaranteed path to boredom for him.
But saving an abused golden retriever from a death sentence.
Now that's high-stakes emotional litigation. That is prime enjoyment material for Andy Carpenter.
And this whole approach, this enjoyment-driven mindset, It leads to a really unconventional legal strategy.
A very aggressive one. He develops it with his associate, Kevin Randall.
Ah, Kevin. The hypochondriac who runs the free legal clinic. The laundromat.
That's the one. And they decide, look, the only way to save this dog is to argue self-defense.
And this is where we get into some really brilliant legal theater. They call it the abuse excuse defense.
Mm-hmm. And Andy immediately frames Yogi not as a dog, but as a victim of domestic violence.
That's a powerful phrase.
It's incredibly powerful. And he uses this really provocative analogy to drive the point home. He says, look, if Yogi were Shaheen's wife and she'd finally snapped and fought back against her abuser,
What would we be doing?
we'd be throwing a cocktail party for her. That's his line.
Wow.
So the core of the argument isn't about, dog bite statutes or municipal codes.
No, it's about something much bigger.
It's about self-preservation, human rights, basically. Yogi defended himself, Andy argues, because he couldn't call 911.
He's basically using the same defense strategy that's been used for years by abused people who finally, justifiably, turn on their abusers.
Exactly. And that elevates the case instantly. It's no longer a local ordinance violation. It's a matter of moral justice.
Okay, but Andy knows that having a great argument isn't enough, right? I mean, getting a dog bite case into a real court it's almost impossible.
It is. So this is where he brings in his next key tactic, strategic media pressure.
He needs to force the judge's hand.
He has to. So he immediately gets on the phone with his contacts in the press, a reporter named Vince Sanders. He promises him the inside scoop, burgers and beer, the whole deal.
And the goal is to make Yogi so famous that no judge would dare rule against him.
To turn him into a public figure. And the visual strategy for this is just perfect.
The photos.
The photos. The photographer doesn't take pictures of a happy, fluffy dog. He takes these sad, dramatic photos of Yogi behind the bars of his cage.
He makes him look like a prisoner.
An innocent prisoner on death row. It dramatizes his plight, and almost overnight, he becomes America's dog.
And the media just eats it up.
Oh, they devour it.
Yeah.
The file says the cable news channels, the internet, the bloggers, they all jump on this headline. Dog taking refuge in the abuse excuse defense.
And the pressure works. It works almost immediately.
Yeah. The next morning, Annie wakes up, turns on the TV, and there's Yogi's face on CNN.
And the graphic underneath says what?
Stay of execution.
Amazing.
This media frenzy is exactly what he needed to get that judicial interference.
And that leads to one of the best anecdotes in the whole file when he gets called into the judge's chambers.
Judge Henry Hatchet Henderson.
The Hatchet. He sounds friendly.
Not known for his warmth, no. But even the Hatchet isn't immune to public or domestic pressure. He admits to Andy that his own wife, Mrs. Henderson, woke him up that morning.
What did she say?
She'd seen the dog on CNN and basically demanded that he not kill that animal.
Huh. So Andy won before he even walked in the door.
He recognizes it immediately. This is the essential win. The judge issues a stay of execution, schedules a hearing for the next morning. They've cleared the biggest hurdle.
Getting into court.
Getting into court. Because now, with the media watching and the public invested, Andy knows that no one who will want us to lose will do so publicly.
So the hearing itself is pretty quick, right?
Very brief, very high profile. And Andy makes a smart move. He doesn't bring Yogi to court.
Why not?
He's worried the dog might, in his words, take a dump in Hatchet's court.
Fair point. That would probably undo some of the public sympathy he's built up.
Just a bit. But the winning move isn't some grand speech about animal rights anyway. It's much simpler.
It's procedural.
It's procedural. It's a simple counterclaim about ownership. Andy produces 2 pieces of paper.
And they prove what?
They prove that Shaheen, the guy who got bit, had only had Yogi for less than 3 weeks. And he'd made no real effort to find the dog's actual owner.
So his claim of ownership was flimsy at best.
Exactly. It completely contradicts his story. And it's a clean tactical strike.
And Judge Hatchet buys it.
He does. He rules that ownership reverts from Shaheen back to the shelter, and then he gives the order. Give the man his dog.
And Andy, being Andy, has to get one last dig in.
He can't resist. He's a showman. He looks at the judge and asks how Yogi can get his reputation back now that he's free.
How did the Hatchet take that?
It earned him a threat of contempt, but the file says there might have been a little twinkle in the judge's eye. So Yogi is free, and the first act is over.
So the dog is free, case closed, right. Andy gets his win, his dose of enjoyment, and everyone moves on.
It should have been. That's where the file should have ended. But this is the deep dive, so of course that's where the real story begins.
This is where it pivots from a local animal rights case to something much, much bigger. a 5-year-old murder conspiracy.
And that transition is, it's immediate. And it's dramatic. Andy takes the newly freed dog Yogi and his own dog Tara back to the shelter.
And what happens?
Suddenly, Yogi breaks his leash, but he doesn't run away. He sprints full speed directly towards a young woman who's waiting outside.
A woman named Karen Evans.
Karen Evans. And the reunion is it's described as pure joy. She's laughing, they're rolling around on the ground, hugging. It's clear they know each other.
And she reveals the dog's real name.
Reggie. His name's Reggie. And then she drops the first bombshell. The one that tells Andy he has stumbled into something far, far deeper than a simple dog bite case.
What does she say?
She looks at Andy and says, "The state of New Jersey says that this dog has been dead for 5 years.
Wow. Okay. So Andy's no longer just saving a shelter dog.
No. He's now investigating a death. Or I guess an undeath.
It turns out the dog's real owner was Karen's brother, Richard Evans.
Richard Evans. He was a U.S. Customs inspector working at the Port of Newark, which is a key detail. And 5.5 years ago, Richard was convicted of murdering his fiancée, a woman named Stacy Harriman.
Let's unpack that original murder case, because Reggie's existence just completely destroys the prosecution's entire story.
It obliterates it.
Yeah.
So the story was that Richard, Stacy, and Reggie went out on Richard's 40-foot boat off the Jersey coast.
A big storm rolls in.
A huge storm. The Coast Guard eventually finds the boat. Richard is on board, unconscious from a pill overdose. It's immediately ruled an attempted suicide.
And Stacy.
Stacy's body is found later. Her blood is on the boat's railing. The prosecution's theory was simple. Richard murdered Stacy, and then, in a fit of grief and guilt, he threw the dog overboard to drown before trying to kill himself.
But Reggie is alive.
But Reggie is very much alive, and Karen has the proof that this dog, Yogi, is definitely Reggie.
Oh.
She points out these very distinct cut marks under his mouth.
From what?
Years ago, from a previous owner, Reggie had been horribly abused. The guy had actually wired his jaw shut. A vet confirmed the marks.
So this physical evidence, backed up by an old vet record, proves it's him.
It eliminates all doubt. Yogi is Reggie. Period.
And that just completely undermines the murder conviction.
Completely. Karen basically gives what the file calls a modern-day Clarence Darrow closing argument right there on the sidewalk.
What's her logic?
It's simple and powerful. If Reggie is alive, then Richard didn't throw him overboard to drown.
Okay.
And everyone knew how much Richard loved that dog. So Karen asks Andy, point blank, "You love your dog Tara. Could you ever throw her overboard?"
And the answer, of course, is no.
A resounding no. So her conclusion is, if he didn't kill the dog he adored, he probably didn't kill his fiancée either.
The implication is just massive.
Huge. Andy follows up on this. He goes to see Lieutenant Michelle Siegel from the Asbury Park PD. She ran the original investigation.
And now she's studying to be a prosecutor herself,
Yeah.
right? So she has a good perspective on it.
A very nuanced one. And she confirms the key physical facts. The boat was 4 miles out to sea. The storm was ferocious.
So there's no way the dog could have survived.
Could not have swum to shore. Her words. The prosecution's story about Richard killing both of them was already a little shaky emotionally.
Why?
Because everyone who knew Richard knew how much he loved that dog. It just didn't track with his character. But the physical evidence, the boat, the storm, the body, it was all overwhelming.
But now, 5 years later, you have this one piece of living, breathing, tail-wagging evidence that contradicts the whole story.
The physical impossibility of Reggie being alive. And for Andy, his own intuition as a dog lover just solidifies it. A guy like Richard couldn't have done that. The dog is the emotional key that's going to unlock this whole frame job.
So we've established Reggie as the emotional core to this case. Now we get to part 3, and this is where the stakes just freeze. They escalate terrifyingly fast.
Yeah, Andy is no longer just reopening a cold case. The people who framed Richard realize he's a threat, and they start reacting violently.
First, Andy and Karen go to Rahway State Prison to meet with Richard Evans.
Right, and Richard is. He's pretty resigned to his fate, but he signs the retainer. He still claims he's innocent, but as he says, everyone in here is innocent. He's developed a deep cynicism after 5 years inside.
And Karen fills in some details about the victim, Stacy Harriman.
Yeah, but the details are all very vague. She was from Montana or Minnesota, apparently had no family, no clear job. Karen just felt that Stacy had a wall up around her.
Not like Richard.
Not at all. Richard was what you see is what you get.
Okay, so the investigation begins, and almost immediately there's a violent reaction.
A very violent one. An attempt on Andy's life. He's driving on the New Jersey Turnpike with his tech guy, Sam Willis.
And a black Acura pulls up alongside them.
And two men just open fire on them.
And the scene that follows is, it's almost comical because of Sam's reaction.
It's unbelievable. Sam, who is this meticulous, borderline hypochondriac computer genius, is suddenly invigorated by the chaos. He's totally calm.
While being shot at.
While being shot at. He tells Andy to chase the car so he can get the license plate VSE 621 while he calmly calls 911.
Andy must have thought he was insane.
I think he did. But it works. The police pursuit ends in a crash. One of the shooters, a small-time hood named Antoine Cooper, is dead.
And the second shooter.
Also dead. His name is Archie Durrell. And this is the first huge, terrifying red flag of the conspiracy.
Why?
Because according to official military records, Archie Durrell was already dead. He was supposed to have died years earlier in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan.
Wait, what? So the guy shooting at him is a ghost?
A ghost with a gun. And that is the moment Andy realizes he is not dealing with some local thugs trying to cover up a murder.
No, he's dealing with professionals. People with government-level skills who can literally fake their own deaths in a war zone.
And the speed of the reaction tells him everything. Someone reacted violently and immediately the second he took on Richard Evans's case.
So this means he needs protection. Serious protection.
This is where Marcus Clark comes in. A terrifyingly competent investigator and bodyguard.
Andy's girlfriend, Lori, is the one who tells him, right, get Marcus.
She does. And Andy knows she's right. He says, if Marcus wanted to do me harm, the 3rd Infantry on their best day couldn't help me. He's the real deal.
So this violence, this dead shooter, it forces Andy to really focus his theories.
Right. Theory 1, Richard is guilty. They ignore that. Theory 2, it's all about Stacy. Unlikely, because why would they go to the trouble of taking the dog?
Which leaves theory 3.
Richard was framed because of his job. Because he was a U.S. Customs inspector. He was in the way of something, and someone needed him removed.
And the customs theory starts to get some traction.
It does. Andy visits Richard's replacement at the port, a guy named Roy Cheney. He's nervous, evasive, clearly not telling the truth.
Meanwhile, Sam Willis is digging into Stacy's background.
And he finds nothing. Her background is almost too perfect. As Sam puts it, if she lived, she would have had a house on Normal Lane and 2.2 children.
Keep too clean.
Way too clean. It reinforces the idea that she wasn't real and that the whole thing was about Richard's job, not their relationship.
But the real turning point, the scientific proof that Richard was framed, comes from a forensics pathologist, Dr. King.
Yes. This is the blockbuster. This is what blows the state's a whole case out of the water. We have to break this down.
Okay, let's do it. 3 key pieces of evidence.
First, the bruise on Richard's head. The original prosecution said he just fell out of bed in the storm.
But Dr. King says,
no way. It was from a blunt, rounded instrument. He was attacked. He was knocked unconscious.
Okay, piece number 2. The overdose itself.
The sleeping pills, a money pam. The state said he swallowed them to commit suicide.
So he didn't.
He didn't. Dr. King's analysis shows the drug was administered by injection, or maybe in liquid form, after he was already unconscious.
Someone drugged him.
Someone drugged him to make it look like a suicide. And then there's the third piece, the scientific clincher.
The gotcha moment.
The big one. The toxicology report showed a trace of a chemical called campine.
And campine is?
It's a preservative used in lab test tubes, but it's also found in shellfish.
And this is important because?
Because Richard's medical records show he had a severe, life-threatening allergy to shellfish.
So there's no way he ate it?
Absolutely no way. Which means the drug had to have been injected using a liquid solution that was preserved with campine.
So it's not just a staged suicide. It's a meticulously planned, professionally executed attempted murder.
Exactly. And Kevin Randall immediately starts drafting a brief for the court based on this undeniable science.
And just to top it all off, as if he needed any more proof that this was a huge conspiracy.
He gets a visit from a government agent, Agent Paulson. From the FBI or CIA, it's not clear which.
And what does Agent Paulson tell him?
He tells him his phone has been tapped by a government agency.
So he's being targeted by professional hitmen who can fake their own deaths,
Yeah.
and he's being monitored by the federal government. This is way bigger than a murder case.
It has fully transformed into a national security situation.
So we have scientific proof that Richard Evans was attacked, not a suicidal killer. Part 4 now is all about the legal battle to get a new trial and this deepening mystery around these military guys and their fake identities.
Right. Andy has the medical evidence, but now he has to convince a judge that a dog's existence is admissible evidence in court.
Which sounds like a huge legal hurdle.
It is, but he argues it brilliantly. He says Reggie's survival isn't just, a cute story. It's physical evidence that directly contradicts the prosecution's entire narrative.
How does he back that up legally?
He actually cites previous cases. He points to the O.J. Simpson trial where the dog's barking was allowed as a form of hearsay evidence, and he brings up drug-sniffing dog cases where a dog's testimony is the basis for a search warrant.
So it's creative, but there's precedent.
There is. He's arguing that Reggie's survival is a physical fact that refutes the state's claim of motive. And Judge Gordon, who's overseeing this, he sees how unusual this all is.
And there's still a lot of media attention, I imagine.
A ton. So he makes a very unusual ruling. He says all the other witnesses will testify first.
And Reggie.
Reggie will be the finale, the star witness, which is just a huge psychological win for Andy.
Okay, so while the legal battle is happening, what's going on with the investigation into the dead shooter, Archie Durrell?
They dig deeper into that military connection. Andy gets Kevin's brother-in-law, Colonel Franklin Prentice at Fort Monmouth, to pull the official report on that helicopter crash in Afghanistan back in 2001.
And the flight manifest is the key here.
It's everything. It confirms the 4 men who were supposedly killed in that crash. You have Durrell, the sergeant. You have Mike Corelli, a special forces officer, and the pilot. Captain Gary Winston, an Army surgeon, and Lieutenant Anthony Banks from Special Services.
And the official report said what happened to their bodies.
Conveniently, it claimed their bodies were carted off by the enemy.
Which means no remains to identify.
Exactly. It was the perfect way to fake a death. And now that they know Durrell was alive, it means all 4 of them probably were.
This points to a coordinated cover-up by a whole military unit, not just one guy.
A massive one. And that brings the focus right back to the original victim, Stacey Harriman.
Or whoever she really was.
Right. Sam Willis confirms her entire identity was a fabrication. The driver's license, passport, social security number, all of it.
He called it a fantasy land.
A fantasy land of perfect, untraceable documents.
And that level of forgery isn't cheap. It's not something you can just buy on the street.
No, this is government-level work. And Lori, Andy's girlfriend, gets a tip from a detective friend in the LAPD.
What's the tip?
He says that pattern, that kind of perfect, clean slate identity, is the hallmark of the witness security program, WITSEC.
So they think she was in witness protection?
That's the theory. So Andy petitions the judge to subpoena the WITSEC records, and that's when things get really interesting.
The government lawyer shows up.
A lawyer from the U.S. Marshals Service, Alice Massingale, and she fights the subpoena hard. Her denial is a masterclass in legal doublespeak.
What does she say exactly?
She says, very precisely, that the woman known in this trial as Stacey Harriman was never in WITSEC.
The woman known as Stacey Harriman.
See, Andy picks up on it immediately. She's parsing her words.
She's telling the literal truth, but it's a misleading truth.
Totally. She's denying that the fake identity was in the program, but she's not denying that the actual person behind that identity might have used WITSEC's methods to disappear.
But not for protection. To escape justice.
To escape justice. And the fact that these people have access to that kind of government infrastructure proves they are operating at a level way above what Andy initially thought.
And just as Andy is building all this momentum for the trial, the conspirators hit back, and they hit him where it hurts most.
They do. While Andy is in court, his house is broken into.
And they steal Reggie.
They steal Reggie. They leave Andy's own dog, Tara, completely unharmed.
Which confirms it. Reggie is the target. He is the one thing they are terrified of.
He's the living, breathing proof of their crime. And for Richard, who's still in prison, hearing that news is just... it's devastating. They've stolen the only thing that could prove his innocence.
Okay, so Reggie's gone. Richard is losing hope. Andy is backed into a corner. He's forced to make a really dangerous move.
A very dangerous, maybe even ethically gray move. He decides to confront the organized crime element that's been lurking in the background of this case.
Dominic Patrone.
Dominic Patrone. And this meeting is where we finally get the full picture of the money laundering scheme.
Andy realizes that the guy Patrone had sent to watch him earlier, Windshield Man.
He wasn't there to kill him. He was just monitoring him, trying to figure out what Andy knew.
So Andy makes a trade. A really risky one.
He basically warns Patrone that a major investigation into customs is coming. The very investigation Andy himself is leading. He's trading incredibly sensitive information for intelligence.
And in return, Patrone gives him information about 4 companies that were funneling things through the Port of Newark, through Keith Franklin's section.
Yes, Keith Franklin, Richard's old colleague from customs, the guy who had been visiting Richard in prison.
Supposedly to be supportive.
But Richard had told Andy that Franklin was actually pumping him for information about customs procedures.
And Andy figures out that Franklin was being forced by the conspirators to set Karen Evans up.
He was. That frantic phone call Franklin made to Karen, telling her to meet him, it was a trap. They were using him to lure her into an ambush.
So these guys are not just using customs, they're manipulating Richard's own friends and colleagues.
We're using everyone.
Okay, so let's dive into the mechanics of the money laundering, because this is the financial core of the whole conspiracy.
It is. With some very reluctant help from Franklin, Andy's team finds the physical proof in a warehouse at the port of Newark.
They find crates.
Crates and crates, labeled as passing through Roy Shaney's department. But they aren't filled with merchandise.
They're filled with cash.
Stacks and stacks of cash. Small bills, 20s, 10s, 5s, all ready to be shipped out of the country.
And this is Patron's money.
This is Patron's cash. See, the U.S. banking system, especially after 9/11, is incredibly strict. You can't just walk in and deposit millions of dollars in small, untraceable bills.
Right, it sets off all kinds of red flags.
So you have to get it out of the country first. You ship it to a country with looser banking laws, and from there you can wire it back into the U.S. as clean investment money.
And Richard Evans was the guy standing in the way of this operation.
His integrity was the roadblock. So they framed him for murder to get him out of his job so that the much more compliant Roy Cheney could take over and let the shipments flow.
And Patron's information confirms that the shipments themselves were fake.
Total ghosts. The shipping manifests listed documents that listed shipments that never actually were delivered, that did not even exist. It was all just a cover for shipping billions of dollars in cash.
And the violence just keeps escalating. Karen gets that fake call from Franklin.
She goes to meet him behind a school number 20, and she's shot in the shoulder. Andy gets there just in time to save her.
Yeah, Franklin.
He's found dead later that night, shot 7 times. He wasn't the one who shot Karen. He was just another loose end being cleaned up in the conspirators. The final confrontation is just, it's terrifying. It happens at Karen's house. Andy and Marcus find one of the conspirators there.
And Andy ends up in a physical fight.
A desperate life or death fight. He actually uses a log from the fireplace as a weapon and kills the guy in self-defense.
And the fingerprints confirm who it is.
Mike Corelli, the supposedly dead Special Forces pilot from the helicopter crash.
So that's the proof.
Yeah.
The whole team, Durrell, Corelli, Winston, and Banks, they all fake their deaths.
It's all real. And this is what finally cracks the Stacy Harriman mystery. Karen remembers that Stacy loved their family cabin in upstate New York near Monticello.
And the forensics team finds her fingerprints there.
On some old pots and pans. And the prints don't match Stacy Harriman. They match a woman named Diana Carmichael.
And who is Diana Carmichael?
She was in the Army. And she worked for the Afghani-American Provisional Authority during the post-9/11 Reconstruction.
And now the whole conspiracy just crystallizes.
All the pieces fall into place. Diana Carmichael, along with Corelli, Durrell, Winston the surgeon, and Banks, they stole billions, literally billions, during the chaos of the Afghanistan Reconstruction.
Then they fake their deaths in the chopper crash.
Used their knowledge of sophisticated identity fabrication, the Witsex-style methods, to completely disappear. Their front man for laundering all that stolen cash was a guy named Yasir Hamadi.
And he was using the ghost shipments at customs, with Chaney's help, to clean the money.
And just like Franklin, Hamadi was killed by the conspirators right before Andy was supposed to meet with him. They were just systematically erasing every link in the chain.
And the final confrontation happens at that cabin in Monticello.
Andy, Karen, a cop friend named Pete Stanton, and Marcus Clark all go up there.
And the climax is almost quiet.
It is. Inside the cabin, they find Reggie. He's safe, just chewing on a toy.
So they didn't hurt him.
No. They also find Anthony Banks, another member of the conspiracy, unconscious, courtesy of Marcus, and they find a woman.
Diana Carmichael.
The woman they knew as Jeanette Nilsson, Hamadi's employee and lover. But she is, in fact, Diana Carmichael, the woman who was Stacy Harriman, the one who faked her own death and planted an unidentified body to frame Richard 5 years ago. So the whole conspiracy is blown wide open. The remaining members are either dead or in custody, and the case moves to a very swift resolution.
Because now the government is involved, and they are deeply embarrassed.
Deeply. The U.S. Marshals Service, represented by that same lawyer, Alice Massengale, wants this buried. The truth that 5 of their own operatives stole billions in Reconstruction funds and then used government techniques to vanish. It's a nightmare for them.
Which gives Andy all the leverage.
All of it. He has the story, the stolen billions, the military corruption, the customs fraud, everything. And the terms he sets are completely non-negotiable.
What does he demand?
Richard Evans is to be released immediately. His conviction is completely wiped out. And he receives $10 million in compensation for the 5 years he lost.
$1 million.
A huge sum. And in return, Andy offers what he calls partial confidentiality. Meaning he can talk to the press about Richard being framed and the corruption at customs, but Massengale is banking on him not going into the embarrassing details about the Afghanistan theft and the fake deaths.
For the government, $10 million is a small price to pay to keep that story quiet.
A bargain, really. To bury the truth that American military personnel stole billions that were meant to rebuild the country after a war.
And so Richard is released, and the file ends with this really powerful emotional moment.
It does. The first thing Richard does as a free man, he hugs Reggie.
And what does he say to him?
He says, "You saved me, buddy. You saved me."
Wow. The dog that everyone thought was a victim, another body thrown into the ocean, was actually the one piece of living evidence that brought the whole thing down.
It's astounding when you trace it all back. A simple dog bite case. And it exposed corruption at U.S. Customs. It exposed organized crime's money laundering operations. It exposed a massive military theft of billions and a conspiracy of 5 people faking their own deaths.
All because one honest customs agent was in their way.
The precision of the frame-up was just chilling. We learned about the logistics of using ghost shipments, the science of the campaign trace that proved the injection.
And how a perfectly fabricated Whitsick-style identity allowed a master criminal, Diana Carmichael, to hide in plain sight as a murder victim.
Reggie really did save Richard's life, as the file says, as certainly as Lassie ever saved anyone.
Which brings us all the way back to the beginning, to Andy Carpenter's philosophy.
Right, his enjoyment drive.
Yeah.
The idea that the pursuit of enjoyment is the primary human motivator.
But then you have Richard Evans. He was facing life in prison, and he had told Andy that if they lost the appeal, he would take his own life. He was choosing freedom or the end of suffering over just survival.
It's a powerful counterpoint. So considering everything Richard went through, this unbelievable conspiracy he was trapped inside, his choice raises a really interesting question.
Does his dilemma suggest that just escaping misery is the highest form of enjoyment? Or is it arguing something deeper?
That may be true. Absolute freedom, the total absence of constraint, is the only context in which life can actually be enjoyed at all.
That's the ultimate question this incredible file leaves us with. And it's something for you to think about long after this deep dive is over.